Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. This video is just something different that I have not done in a while. Y'all know we started off as a farming channel when John started out farming back in 2017, but due to circumstances that has quit, he's no longer farming, which means nobody in my immediate family has anything to do with farming. But however, Jackie's cousin still does a lot. But I still like to ride around and look at crops and just reminisce and dream about maybe one day that we can get back into farming. So I'm just going to ride around and show you some wheat and corn and tobacco and just whatever else I can find, just to share with you what's going on in our neck of the woods in the agriculture community. So here's a wheat field that was just combined, let's see, probably 2 to 3 days ago. And you can see they have rolled the straw up for round bales. Have no clue what they're going to do with them. This is actually the first year that I have seen anybody really roll their straw up. I don't know if it's going to be because of due to a shortage of hay, that they're just looking to make some extra change to sell some straw hay for bedding or filler food or whatever they're doing it for. And I personally, I have mixed emotions about doing this or not. A lot of people here will take their peanut stalks after the peanuts are harvested and roll that for hay, you know, as a filler. The reason I say mixed emotions is because you're taking a lot of the straw that could have been used for natural fertilizer, natural nutrients for the soil, that you're taking that out and gonna have to replenish it with more man-made fertilizers. The only way I would roll straw or roll peanut hay if I could really make some change off of it to offset what the increased fertilizer is going to cost me. But that's just my thoughts. Now this here is my neighbor's blueberry field. Blueberries were harvested last month, so they are bare. But you can see how neat and clean the rows are, how uniform the blueberry bushes are. This is something you really have to take care of, because weather really affects your crop production. And I'll slow down here a little bit. You can see they're drip irrigated. I don't know if you can tell the black tube at the base of the bushes or not. But this field really belongs to them. System. As I said, you know, it's drip. So besides irrigating, you can also infuse chemicals, can infuse fertilizer, you know, whatever the needs may be. So blueberries are really not labor intensive until it's picking time. So as far as the fertilizing and the upkeep, you know, it's very, I'm going to say it's not very minimal is not the right word. It's really not that hard. But obviously, as big as the fields are, it's still a lot of work. Picking is the hardest part, because the first batch you want to pick, they're picked by hand, because you're looking for that quality berry and not necessarily quantity. So that's just the way blueberries are done in our neck of the woods. I'll show you right here. He's got some zone valves right here with a pressure gauge, so that way he can make sure that the water pressure and the distribution is done evenly. So that's a blueberry field in South Georgia. And I didn't notice these till I turned around from the blueberry patch, but somebody's got some beehives here, but I don't see any bee activity. So They could very well be just empty hives here. Now, when you see a pine tree, you really don't think of farming, but pine tree farming is huge in our area, and you can see how clean this is because they've been baling pine straw. You know, pine straw here is a lot of people put it around their flower beds because it's cheap and easy to obtain. So pine straw farming here is a pretty good market. Now here's some double row peanuts planted over near my mother-in-law's. I say they're double rows because I don't know if I can zoom in. I'll get out of the truck. The daggum gnats is hot. Is the 2 rows are planted side by side, and then they skip a spot for rear wheel spacing, and then another set of double rows right there. And it's planted next to some corn, and you can see the brown corn down there. The pivot that's in this field is not quite reaching that. So you can see the difference between how green and tall this is right here compared to down at that far end where it starts turning brown just because the pivot's not reaching it. So dryland corn in South Georgia is tough to grow because it is just the heat and the humidity is brutal to it. Peanuts and cotton you can get by with, but tobacco and corn, you better have you some water available for it. Now here's a better shot of what happens when you don't have water on dryland corn, or when you have water, when you have corn that does not have irrigation. Huge difference right here. I mentioned pine tree farming earlier when I was talking about the pine straw. And here's some land that was freshly cut probably about maybe 3-4 months ago, and they got it replanted. So you can see the pine trees that are bedded up right there. Rows aren't very straight, but really doesn't matter in pine trees. And here is a tobacco patch for most of you in the country. For those of us in the southeast, we call it a backer patch. So you can see this tobacco is starting to turn a little yellowish on the bottom, so won't be too long before they pick it, but they have not topped it yet. So that's still got to be topped. Still got to turn a little bit more brown. And you know, the old days when I was young, I picked tobacco 1 year as a child and said, oh no, that was enough for me. Don't like the snakes, don't like the tar getting all over me. So that was a one and done for me. And then I went to work for the local dairy farmer milking cows. A lot harder hours, but it was an all year round job too. So hopefully when they get to picking this, I can bring you back to show you how it's now picked, because we used to pick what we call those yellow leaves, or they're really turning brown at the bottom. That would be the lug. But that height tobacco there would probably be 3 to 4 pickings, because you would just take 2 or 3 leaves at a time off the bottom, because as the plant, it ripened from the bottom up. So, but now they just pick it all in one big blob, or one big picking. So hopefully I can bring you back when it's being picked. And in front of us here is a cotton patch, cotton field, and it's late planted, so it's still got a lot of growing to grow. But the last crop and I couldn't find a soybean patch, but the last crop I'm going to show on this video is Scott from Heritage Farms Texas calls it. He calls it a pecan tree, but here in South Georgia we call them pecans. So you can see a cluster of 4 there, and you know, a cluster of 3, and another cluster of 3. You know, 2 more clusters of 3. You know, so that's usually our average cluster size here. And these trees are actually across the road from Blessed Nana's house, and of course there's her driveway with more trees in the yard there. So that's just a crop tour of what's going on in my neck of the woods. As the crops grow further, as I said in the backer part, you know, I'll try to catch them when they're harvested. So just hope you enjoyed seeing what's growing in God's country, and who knows what you'll see next. But until then, y'all take care and God bless.